same period in which McCarthyism took root in the United States. Yet, despite the chilling effects of McCarthyism on how economics and other social sciences were taught, mainstream economists like Paul Samuelson and Franco Modigliani got Keynesian ideas into their teaching. They advocated impressively progressive macroeconomic policies. You know, by 2011 standards, the policies that were being advocated by Samuelson and Modigliani and Solow in the 50s and the 60s looked powerfully progressive. And they also trained students during this period who went on to teach Keynesian economics when McCarthyism had subsided. And it's kind of curious that economists who were trained in the presumably more open post-Vietnam War 1970s, when many prestigious economics departments had non-neoclassical economists on their staff, it's curious how economists who were trained in this later period came into their professional prime in the 1980s and then launched a ruthless war on Keynesian, Marxian, and institutional economists, including to some extent the Keynesians, the mainstream Keynesians who had hired him. I think this is a mystery of intellectual history that ought to be addressed, and that's part of what got me onto this topic. Whatever, now I come to my last remarks, whatever disagreements post-Keynesians may have had with the neoclassical synthesis, interpretation of the general theory, and these differences are important and they are real, nevertheless, mainstream Keynesians at least understood that market systems could malfunction in serious ways. And they also understood that governments had a key role to play in getting a system out of an economic ditch, and indeed from keeping the system from getting into a ditch. Beyond that, in a very real sense, mainstream Keynesians were marginalized by the same tendencies within the profession that pulverized Marxian, post-Keynesian, institutionalist voices in academic economics in the 1980s. So the question of the compatibility of Keynesianism and socialism, I think, provides a platform for launching a discussion of how the left engages with mainstream progressives. Keynesianism is sometimes criticized from a Marxian perspective on the grounds that it really intends to rescue capitalism for the capitalists. I have no quarrel with this point, but it doesn't undermine the case for Keynesian theory or for Keynesian policy. That theory is compatible with much of Marxian economics. Again, to a large extent, Marxian economists anticipated much of what was in the general theories. Much of what was in the general theory. I think that capitalism, I think that working conditions won't improve for most workers until the system is replaced by one with radically different relations of production. So I think we should certainly move in the direction of socialism. But for good or for ill, change on a large scale tends to occur incrementally. And it's important then to lay a foundation for the application of Keynesian policies while we are working in the direction of a more radical kind of socialism. And I think we should not just look to Keynes, but we should look to maybe some of his allegedly more mainstream contemporaries, like Pigou, who was a Fabian socialist, and like Modigliani, who for this very brief period at least was a market socialist. So this is where I will end. Thank you.